Hi class 10 students, this is your teacher Harpreet Kaur from English Frog Club. Today I am going to teach you the chapter 4 from your book First Flight from the diary of Anne Frank. So let's move straight into the explanation of the chapter. Without wasting our time here and there, let's move on. This chapter is an excerpt from the diary written by Anne Frank. Here, the writer wants to give us a little brief introduction about Anne, her life, and the situation under which she started writing the diary, and the situations through which she went while they were hiding just to save their life during the World War. So, let's now read the chapter, what experiences Anne is about to share with us in this chapter. Writing a diary is a really strange experience for someone like me, not only because I have never written anything before, but also because it seems to me that later on neither I nor anyone else would be interested in the musings of a 13-year-old schoolgirl. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I feel like writing and I have an even greater need to get all kinds of things off my chest. So here Anne is sharing her experience that this diary writing was a strange experience for her. For the reasons, first she is mentioning here that she had never written anything before, and moreover it seems to her that no one would be interested in the amusement, in the things that were being enjoyed by a 13-year-old girl. Then she says no, it doesn't matter to her whether someone is interested to read her diary or not. She says that here she just expresses that she feels like writing and therefore she is writing. Moreover, she had a need to get the things off her chest. She wants to reduce the burden that she is feeling on her heart, and by sharing those things with the diary, she will surely get that burden off her chest. Now let's examine this next paragraph. What a beautiful opening of the paragraph it is. Paper has more patience than people. I thought of this saying on one of those days when I was feeling a little depressed and was sitting at home with my chin in my hand. So here Anne wants to say that she was sitting at home with her chin in her hands. That means she had nothing else to do. She was really depressed and she was feeling quite lonely also. And then this saying came to her mind that paper has more patience than people. So she can always confide in with paper. Okay. So bored and listless, wondering whether to stay in or to go out. So on this day, Anne had nothing to do and she was just thinking whether she should be staying in the house or she should be going out, as the atmosphere outside was not quite safe and she was advised not to move out, and it was difficult for her to stay inside also. She was just a child, and a child always yearns for playing. So she is repeating her word, yes, paper does have more patience, and since I am not planning to let anyone else read this stuff bagged notebook, grandly referred to as a diary, unless I should ever find a real friend, it probably won't make a bit of difference. So she said that whatever I have on my heart, I'm just going to disclose, I'm just going to write it on the diary, and moreover she won't let anyone read this stuff, whatever she is writing in this diary. She won't be sharing it with anybody unless here she is talking about a condition that if ever she would get a real friend to whom she can confide in, so she at that time she can just make that friend read the diary, but till that time she won't let anybody peep into the musings, into the writings of the diary. Now let's read from here. Now I'm back to the point that prompted me to keep a diary in the first place. I don't have a friend. So now Anne is sharing her desire to keep a diary. So it's been written here that in the first place, so the first thing was that she did not have a friend, okay, and that is why she wanted to keep a diary, so that she can just talk what is there in her heart to someone. Let me put it more clearly, since no one will believe that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone in the world. And I'm not. So she says that nobody would be believing that a 13-year-old girl is completely alone and she doesn't have any friends. So, but she then says that she is not alone. She has her parents and a 16-year-old sister. There are about 30 people I can call friends. But she says that there are nearly 30 persons whom she can call friends, but there isn't anyone, any particular person to whom she can call her a real friend, to whom she can talk her heart out. I have met family, loving aunts and a good home. No, on the surface I seem to have everything except my one true friend. So she said that she has everything: parents, family, aunt and home, good home and everything that is required for a good living, but she doesn't have a good friend. So that is why she wants to write the things in the diary. All I think about when I'm with friends is having a good time. So she just keep wondering that if she would be with her friends, what will she do? She'll have a very good time. Now she's all alone here in this hiding, and it would be wonderful to be with friends. I can't bring myself to talk about anything but ordinary everyday things. We won't seem to be able to get any closer, and that's the problem. So she says whenever she is in the company of her friends, company of people, it becomes difficult for her to get closer to anybody, to share her problems, to share her hearts, to share her feelings. But she talks to people, but it's just ordinary things. She never just discusses what's there in her heart. Maybe it's my fault that we don't confide in each other. In any case, that's just how things are, and unfortunately they are not liable to change. So she says that this is my personality trait, and unfortunately this trait, she won't be able to change this trait, and the situations that she cannot rely on anybody. So this is why I have started the diary. So she is telling us the reason that as she is lonely, she doesn't have a friend with whom she could just pour everything out of her heart. So that is the reason she started writing this diary. To enhance the image of this long awaited friend in my imagination. So she said that she was waiting for this friend for a very long time in her imagination. She was imagining that one day she would be getting one true friend, and this is that same thing. The diary is her one true friend. I don't want to jot down the facts in this diary the way most people would do, but I want the diary to be my friend, and I'm going to call this friend Kitty. So here Anne has given a beautiful name, the name that she likes, that is Kitty, to the diary, and she says that she won't be following what other people do in the diaries. They just jot down the things that are happening or are important, but she will be just disclosing her feelings with this friend named Kitty. So, to her, this diary is going to be her true friend. Let's see what's there in the chapter next. Let's move on. So, we have come to know about the reasons and why Anne has started writing diary. Now, let's get straight into one of the experiences that she had discussed with us in this chapter. Since no one would understand a word of my stories to Kitty if I were to plunge right in, I would better provide a brief sketch of my life, as much as I dislike doing so. She says that although she dislikes disclosing her life biography to the people, but it would be to make it easier for others to understand what she want to discuss, she need to give a brief sketch of her life. So here we are going to get some brief introduction of her family, her birth and other aspects of her life before writing this diary. My father, most adorable father I've ever seen, didn't marry my mother until he was 36 and she was 25. So here she is discussing the age of her parents when they got married. Her father was 36 and her mother was 25 at that time. My sister Margaret was born in Frankfurt in Germany in 1926. So here we get the birth year of her sister Margaret. And I was born on 12 June 1929. I lived in Frankfurt until I was 4. So she was born in Frankfurt on June 12, 1929. Okay, and she was a German citizen. Okay, and till she was 4 years old, her parents were there, staying there in Frankfurt only, but they shifted to some other place. My father immigrated to Holland in 1933. My mother, Edith Hollander Frank, went with him to Holland in September, while Margaret and I were sent to Aachen to stay with our grandmother. Margaret went to Holland in December and I followed in February when I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margaret. So here Anne is giving the brief description that till she was 4 years old, she lived in Frankfurt. After that, her father immigrated to Holland, and in 1933, her mother also followed her father, and they were sent to Margaret and Anne. Both sisters were sent to her grandmother. Margaret was sent earlier to the grandmother, and later Anne was also sent to the grandmother. Here she is very humorously presenting the event that it was the birthday of her sister when she reached her grandmother's house. So beautifully she has used this. I was plunked down on the table as a birthday present for Margaret. So instead of saying that on the birthday she reached to her grandmother's house on birthday of Margaret, and it was a very happy moment for this her sister. So let's find out what's there in the next paragraph. I started right away at the Montessori Nursery School. I stayed there until I was 6, at which time I started in the first form. In the 6th form, my teacher was Mrs. Coopers. The headmistress at the end of the year We were both in tears as we said a heartbreaking farewell. So she got quite attached to her teacher to her headmistress, Mrs. Cooper's, in the elementary school, in the Montessori school, where she started when she was 6 years old. She got admitted into the Montessori nursery school when she was 6 years old, and she completed her first form, and she just stayed there till her 6th standard. And there was a close relationship between her headmistress and her, and when she had to leave the school after the completion of the primary school, see, it was quite difficult for her to get away from her headmistress, as they were quite close to each other. So both of them were in tears. In summer of 1941, grandma fell ill and had to have an operation, so my birthday passed with little celebration. So her grandma got sick and she had to undergo an operation, a surgery, and that year her birthday could not be celebrated. Now here Anne is sharing what happened on her birthday after 1 year. Grandma died in January 1942. No one knows how often I think of her and still love her. This birthday celebration in 1942 was intended to make up for the other. The grandma's candle was lit along with the rest. Okay, so here unfortunately her grandmother died in 1942, and she was also very much quite attached to her grandmother. She was so attached to her that like she just celebrated her birthday as a tribute to her grandma and lit a candle for her. The four of us are still doing well, and that brings me to the present date of 20 June 1942 and the solemn dedication of my diary. So now she has come, given the brief sketch of her life, and now the present date, today's date, she is writing that it is now June 20, 1942. So, and now solemn dedication of my diary, like she was quite attached to her headmistress. After that she was attached to her grandmother. Now both of them were not there with her. She had left the school, so headmistress can't be there, and grandmother had died, so that situation cannot be changed. Now she is quite solemn, lonely, and that is why she has dedicated her feelings and everything to her diary. So that's all in this part of the explanation video of this chapter. We'll meet again with the explanation of the rest of the chapter in the next video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, consider subscribing it, and see you in the next video.